the whole family got to be on the train, and it was just fun. It was just a lot of fun seeing all the grandkids play together.
Your little quiver is full. I dig it.
Yep.
I love it. Anybody else thankful for anything? Come on, I know you have happy hearts somewhere there.
I got to attend a financial class in Vegas this weekend, which was enlightening and revolutionary for me. Just new ways of looking at some stuff. And based on the book by George Anton, Banker's Code, the Wealth
Hold
Code.
on, Banker's Code?
Banker's Code or the Wealth Code. It's how to use debt to win. Take everything Dave Ramsey says and throw it out the window.
Uh-oh, I can't believe that just came out of your mouth, Andrew.
No,
Oh,
Andrew,
Toledo.
no, you leave it like you learn the Dave Ramsey stuff and then you supersize it after you get down the budget and because I did George Anton's class. I did the whole 16-week class. It's amazing. If you're going to continue down that path, it's great.
Yeah,
I think this is a class waiting to happen between the two of you on Lions and Legends.
Yeah, that's what I just heard.
Yep, me too.
Perfect. There we go. And ironic that you learn a financial wealth building class in Vegas, because that seems oxymoronic to me.
Yeah, right.
You go there to make deposits, not bring home deposits.
Sounds like an excuse to me.
I'm the most boring person in Vegas. Was in bed by 9:30 every night, and I'd walk 10 miles a day.
Sounds excellent.
Can you put that information in the chat for me, Andrew, please?
Yeah, the book.
Okay, absolutely.
Thanks.
Perfect. Reagan
Andrew,
Nicholson.
I think that you're excellent and you're always trying to learn new things. And honestly, it's inspiring. You go to a lot of different classes, and it's fun to watch.
Thank you.
There we go.
Who'd you walk with every morning, Andrew?
Myself, actually, I walked with Todd Bookspan every morning.
Oh, that guy.
That guy, exactly. He's much more social than I am. But I walked with Todd and I was blessed.
You guys are awesome. Reagan, you had your hand up for something you're thankful for.
Yes. Well, I'm always thankful to be amongst this group. And so I'll start there. And I'm grateful for spring is peaking around its head around the corner here. I understand y'all are already having hot weather in Phoenix, but in Santa Fe, we've still got snow in the forecast. So we're getting peaks. Like last week, we had a 70-degree day. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that spring is knocking at the door.
There you go. And yeah, Q1 is today's the last day, peeps. So if you had Q1 goals, today is like foot to the floor. Go get it. Nicole, you were going to say something?
Yep, I was going to share my gratitudes. I'm just very grateful for being surrounded with awesome communities. Between the agents and the real estate people that I'm around. I went to an awesome 2-day event last week with my business coach and some other entrepreneur women. And then over the weekend, I was up in Payson in a women's retreat that Shireen put on. And we did a lot of Dispenza meditation. So I coming out of the weekend, pretty buzzing and ready for Q2. So I'm pretty excited.
Good deal. I like Shireen. She's a cool lady.
Yeah.
Smart lady. Awesome. Anybody else? All right, I'll close it up. I'm super grateful. We had our big trip and we just got home from it, and we adjusted back to believe it or not, for me, time zones. I did pretty well rolling back in. And then this past week, we've just had some really awesome quality time with some people that we've been connected to, but very distantly, and just never been able to get together. And so we were able to get together and spend some time with them and kind of catch up on life. So I'm just super grateful for these long lasting relationships that don't require the everyday maintenance, right? Like when we have these gaps in time and we can we reconnect and pick up just like it was a day or so ago. So I'm super grateful for that. Okay. I have, I'm going to hold off for one more week before I make that announcement. But we will be getting together as an organization in the end of May for just some good social fun together. So I'll give you an actual date and what we're going to do, but I'm going to try to do something before it gets way too hot here and we can still enjoy some time together in the great outdoors. So just know that that's out there. And I think it's actually well, I'll just be quiet. It's the end of May. I'll be specific next week. I don't want to say the wrong dates and then, appear to be as blonde as I am apparently. So we'll hold off on that. But I want to jump today. My friend Robert Richman is here. And speaking of conferences and things you go to learn stuff, I happened to be at a conference earlier this year. And I mean, he'll probably agree with me. It was a stellar weekend of just non-stop, just download after download after download of good business sense, great spiritual direction, organization in your life, learning from, people who've gone from upper to Prince and back again, and then back again on some of them. And we happened to be sitting together in one of the breakout sessions and started talking. I was like, dang it, everything you're saying is stuff that I want all my friends on Lions and Legends to hear also. So I kind of rudely stopped him from telling me more because I was like, wait, why don't you come and hang out with us and share what you're doing and what you've done? Because a lot of what he's doing and what he's done on a small and then bigger scale is very similar to what we do in our own industry, building a business that's solely me. And then if I'm growing a team, I'm building, or if I'm building a network, whatever it is, I think a lot of the principles of what he teaches are super, super valuable. So Robert, thank you so much for being here. He's been cultural strategy with Zappos and a whole handful of these. I think if you guys read the post that I put out last night, you will see that, he's no schlep. So we want him to come hang out with us and teach us some things and help us all level up. So I'm going to stop talking. All you guys know that as he talks, I'll interrupt because I can't keep my questions to myself. And so we want you to do the same thing. Feel free. I told him about you, that you're a very inquisitive and happy learning group of people. So use the chat or just pop your hand up or whatever, and we'll just jump in because it's more about the dialogue. So we all get something out of it. So my friend Robert, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you and can't wait to learn from you today.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, and thank you, everyone. Honor and pleasure to be here with you. And I agree with Kimberly. If you can interrupt me anytime, if you have questions, if there's things you want to talk about. I prefer that we stay away from debate because that can be an intellectual discussion, great. But my intention is really to provide as much value as I can. And I hope your questions are based on that for other people, for each other, or for me. And as Kimberly said, I'm a keynote speaker. I speak to companies like Google, IBM, Westin Hotels, many, many others like that. And, I usually speak, my standard rate is about $25,000. And I say that just because, so why am I doing this without that? Well, one reason is I get to try out new material. That's what I was saying to Kimberly. Like, it's when I go up on stage in front of IBM, I have to nail it with the hits, those things that I know are going to work. I don't get to try out new things. And I'm working on a new book right now. And so this was an opportunity to add value to you all by testing out these concepts. But the other thing I want to share is that you are paying for this in the sense that you're paying with your time and you're paying with your attention. Right. So there is that cost to it. And because of that, I found that presence is absolutely key for that if you want to have real insights and breakthroughs from this. So what I say to an audience is that's what I ask of you, is to pay attention. What I do so much to the point where I put my phone on airplane mode. I do this even before I go on stage because I don't want to be interrupted. There's 911 if people have an emergency. Right. And what I've also done on stage is told people, look, you have permission to go. If you want an extra hour in your life right now because you're so busy, great, go ahead. When I announced this at a conference once, they said, oh my God, I got to spend time at the pool. Thank you for giving me permission. So my request from you is if you do stay, is that you give your full attention to me and to your colleagues here. And if you don't want to, that it's no harm, no foul, no offense. So if you're willing to be totally present here, can you just raise your hand and just, if you agree to that? Okay, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm going to be going into some of the new material that I'm going to be talking about. But first, by way of my background, who here has heard of Zappos before? Just so I know. Okay, a lot of you. Has anybody actually called in to customer service for Zappos anytime? So what we became known for is being a #1 customer service, according to American Express's customers. And we built a brand that that really honored service above everything else. And we also built a brand around company culture. So I often do whole talks around culture. We can talk about that, whole talks around service. I'll just give you one example of how different we were. You know, I don't know if you've ever had an employee or been in a company where somebody can ruin the whole thing. And other times they can make your life amazing, right? So what we did at Zappos was said, let's cut that off. Let's make sure that never happens. And the way that we did that is we found that it tends to happen with people who actually don't want to be there and want that job. So what we did was offered people a month's salary to quit when they were coming on board the company, which just sounds crazy, right? But it prevents any damages from happening. So that's just one example of the kind of ways that we would create very unique employee experiences. And service was always very different too. Like we became known for all kinds of pioneering things in the industry. An 800 number, calls answered in less than 60 seconds, free returns both ways. Nobody had ever done that before. And it really elevated the industry where other people started to copy these kind of techniques. And I think that that's when you're really onto something, when you're not just being secretive of your techniques, but you're using things that can actually up-level your colleagues here and up-level the entire industry. And just to clear up my background, I really don't like talking about myself. I'm just going to clear this out so you can know where I'm coming from. Since being culture strategist at Zappos, I started a whole division there where we shared great secrets of customer service and culture to the world. I wrote this book called The Culture Blueprint, The Guide to the High Performance Workplace, and just spent time going around the world speaking to some of the best companies. So before I get into more of the content as well, I just want to get a feel of everybody here. Is everyone here a real estate agent? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, great. Anybody not? So I just keep that in mind. Oh, go ahead, Todd.
But I'm in mortgage, so it's close enough.
Okay, mortgage got it close enough. And you know, I like to know the audience as well who's familiar with things. And if you don't want to answer any questions, by the way, I will never put you on the spot. I have respect for those who want to just be quiet or not say anything. So please don't feel like you have to participate in anything. But who here would say they're, you know, without going into details, is a person of faith of some sort, of a higher power, of... Okay, great. Because I'll sometimes, what I use from this is sometimes examples from the Bible, because I see it as whatever you think of it, there is wisdom in there and things that we can learn from there. So what I'm going to be talking about is, and first of all, like I want to check in at any time. You know, Kimberly, please interrupt me at any time, even if you think like I said, my point isn't for you to like me. My point is to be of value to you. So if this is going off the rails in some way, don't think you're going to offend me. Don't think like, oh no, we're not getting the stuff he wants. At the end of the day, that's all I want, is to contribute value to you. And something to know about this, about the value too, is what's interesting is even though I get to speak on these amazing stages, I rarely get a standing ovation. Because some of the things I'm going to teach you, you won't actually realize the value until later when you try it. So what I ask, this is why I don't want debate, is because I ask people, I say, don't believe me. Don't believe a word I say. Test it out for yourself. I want you to test some of these things, because by doing that, then you'll see the value. And then people always oftentimes say to me, okay, 3 months, 6 months later, oh my God, I see what the value was of that, right? So talking about breakthroughs, I first want to, we're going to be defining some terms. So what would you say is a breakthrough? Let's say one of your employees or somebody said, you know, you're talking about a breakthrough. Does anybody have a definition that they would use of a breakthrough? I mean, we all want them, right? Does anybody here not want any breakthroughs in your finances, in your family, marriage, work, any health? Does anybody not want one?
I would say an example of a breakthrough with me is having a newer agent being able to successfully take a contract from start to finish on their own. listing appointment to listing agreement to under contract to close of escrow.
Cool. Thanks, Cheryl. And how did they get there?
Through a lot of questions and answers and yeah, a lot previous experience.
So you had a previous experience that probably gave you some insights about that experience, right?
Sure.
Cool. Anybody else or have a definition of what a breakthrough is? Because this is, yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I would say a breakthrough is finding potential where you didn't see it before.
Yeah. That's a great way to say it. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm not doing this as a quiz, like there's a right answer, but I think it's amazing. So I talk about culture a lot, right? I'll say, what is culture? If your employee asks you what is culture, I literally get 30 different definitions and none of them are wrong. But I think it's just important that we define our terms and say what they are. And so I'm using a definition here of a breakthrough is that space in between insight and action. When Cheryl got these insights, but then put them into action, it's the space in between the two that we're really going for. And some of you might have that insight on here. Some of you might have it later with some of the techniques that I'm going to share. So is that making sense so far? Okay, cool. I'm just looking down at my notes here because, like I said, I'm kind of working this material as I go through it. So
Robert,
first I want to
jump
talk
in really fast?
Yeah, please.
Because breakthrough is a big thing in our industry. We talk about it all the time. We're like breaking through different thresholds of production, breaking through skill sets, right? And so I think it's a valid thing to dig a little deeper on, like thinking about, for me, when I think about breakthrough, it's about crossing a threshold I have yet to been able to get there, right? Like I've been persevering and I'm trying different angles and finally there's a breakthrough because I have some sort of insight, right? That might be new or a different perspective, but it allows me to get across a line that I've hit that ceiling for, right? And so I think sometimes that resistance when we are on this side of breakthrough, it sends, I think, a funny little message, because sometimes I think it sends the message, oh, we're not going down the right path. If we have so much resistance, we're not breaking through. We should just stop and go a different direction. And I don't know where you're going with this, but I mean, when I think about, when you talk about insight and action in that space in between, there's a lot of psychology in that space in between, like what happens in our head, right? Oh my gosh, maybe this isn't the right thing. I was so convinced over here, this is the path we should take. And now I have all this resistance, or I'm not getting across that line, that maybe I have the wrong idea, or maybe it's, it's just, I think this continuous action of pushing through that resistance that allows us to go somewhere different and have that breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sometimes a tough call. Sometimes you're going the wrong direction, beating your head against the wall. And other times it's breaking through that resistance.
Right.
Right. So with this idea of that, it comes with that insight first. Do you think you're in control of having that insight? Is that within your control? How would you control that? How would you say, you know what, I want to have a huge insight that's going to lead to this breakthrough to action? How would you control that ability to have the insight?
Your environment.
Environment.
I think it's mindset. A lot to do with mindset.
I think it's taking the action, like just Cheryl gave Andrew a compliment about how inspiring he is, because he's on this quest to learn all the time. Right. And I think part of us has to be like, if we're going to be in control, I don't know that we have ultimate control, but I do think we can control some of the aspects of it where, right, I can't just sit here and do nothing and expect to have new insight. I have to have some sort of action and some drive to go get new information or new perspectives or insights from other people so that I can apply them and run them through a filter.
Yeah, this all makes a lot of sense. And what I'm going to share with you is actually counterintuitive to all of this. And it surprised me because I actually discovered it within the Bible, and it's glaring in the face, yet so many people don't do it or know what it is. Before we go there, though, one of the things I learned at Zappos Insights, that's the division where we would teach about culture and service to the world. And what we would do was we'd share like this amazing culture and this great service. And people would get really upset. They'd get very frustrated. They'd be upset that they said, "Oh yeah, you can do this because you're so big." So big, an entrepreneur would say. Procter and Gamble would come in there and say, "You could do this because you're so small." Some would say you could do this because you have all this money. But what I realized to this was that frustration and sometimes even confusion is a key step before the breakthrough. Right? So take a moment right now, and hopefully you have something to write with. If not, I recommend getting something. And again, I'm not going to make anybody share, so please know that. But if you'll start just by thinking, I'll put like 60 seconds to it. What is something that's either a frustration to you or confusing you right now, where you'd like to have a breakthrough? But seeing it through that lens of a place where you're frustrated or confused. So just think about that for a moment. And whether through the chat or just unmuting, is anybody willing to share one? Cheryl said frustrated with my schedule and having more consistency. Okay, great.
Personally, I'm frustrated on next steps in my career life. I love what I'm doing. I don't want to change that, but I want to add something more. And I'm trying to figure out what that more looks like. And I can't seem to get inspired or excited about anything. So I'm trying to figure out. So I'm frustrated and confused. I get the double.
Yes, this is ripe. This is really ripe. Sometimes I'm even going to show you ways to literally turn up the frustration. I know we don't want that, right? But it actually creates more space for breakthrough by creating more frustration. I'll share how you do that in a second. Okay, what else?
I have too many ideas, so I get frustrated on which one to pick.
Yes, me too, Nicole. Definitely. Oh, huge frustration there.
Nicole, I swear we're kindred spirits.
So part of the process, actually looking at back on my whiteboard here, is I'm not even, and I'll admit, I'm not sure on the order, the sequence. It might even be like grieving, the way it can go into different types of stages at different times. But one of them, I'll go over a few of them, is like what you're doing now, sharing it. There's a frustration I had, and I started sharing it with people, and oddly enough, they just started offering me the answers. So sometimes it comes down to a level of vulnerability. Who are we sharing these frustrations with? Are we being honest about them? Are we saying like, hey, like maybe to somebody who sees us as having all our stuff together and so put together, and we say, you know what, I don't. You know what? And when they say, how are you? Maybe instead of saying fine or I'm great or fantastic, we say, there's actually something that's really bothering me. I've got all these ideas. I just don't know which one to do. And, somebody might say, oh, that's great. And then other people might engage in a whole conversation with you. So that's one aspect of how we're actually in control of that breakthrough potentially, is to share it with others. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one technique. And again, this might be all at once because I have had these experiences where it puts them all together. The second is, what are the blocks? What are the blocks to a breakthrough? And I think about this as sin. Now, I know that can be triggering, sin. Oh my gosh, sin. But I have a different definition of it that I think is, I was actually just getting an argument with somebody about this. The sins that are in the Bible don't necessarily apply today. And there are all kinds of new ones that are happening. So what is the structure of it? And this is a working definition I have of it, which is a sin is something that gives you very clear short-term benefits, but is very destructive in the long term. That could be destructive to yourself, to your career, to your family, to your health, right? Short term, it gets a hit. Long term, it's destructive. And this is how we create potentially more frustration. Because, being honest for myself, it took me a while to see that like literally smoking pot every day was really getting in the way. It was and that was not, fun necessarily for me to stop that. But I saw how much it was I saw how my goals weren't progressing. I saw all these things that just even showed me that it wasn't working anymore. But what that did was it didn't create a breakthrough for me. But you know what it did? It increased my frustration. I couldn't numb out that I wasn't in the place where I wanted to be. I couldn't stop that frustration, that confusion. So again, I don't if you want to share, that's great. I know this can be very, very personal and very, very vulnerable. But you might think, okay, with that definition of sin, where might I be sinning? Where might I be doing something that, feels good right now, but you know what? It's not really helping me in the long term. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just create space if there's anything somebody wants to share, or questions or insights. I get it. This is the vulnerable part, right? So only you can decide what that is. Or if that is there, you might say, you know what? I don't have anything. I'm actually really good with how I'm living my life. I feel clear on it. That's great. There's no judgment there. But this is where, after this, I started to see, oh my God, it's staring us in the face what that is to have that insight that leads to the action. And, I think it was Jason who was saying it's environment. That's obviously huge. Who you surround yourself with, what you're doing. I mean, environment really trumps a lot of different things. I talked to a coach who started a coaching school, and he said, this is a head of a coaching school, who said, what you do with your body and what you do with your environment trumps everything. Everything. And he's got stacks and stacks of books of coaching language and techniques and questions and all this. And he was the one who told me, nope, what you do with your body and where you put yourself in what environments is going to shift everything more than anything else. Right? So talking about that in terms of the environments, and that it's like right there amazingly in the Bible, is within the basic element of the 10 Commandments. So interestingly, with the 10 Commandments, most of it is telling you what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. There's only two things. Anybody without looking and cheating or Googling, can anybody tell me there's only two things it actually tells you to do? Does anybody know offhand what those are?
Honor your father and mother.
Is one, yes.
That's the one. I have to think of the other
Love
one.
your neighbor.
That's not in the 10 Commandments. It's great, but it's not in the 10 Commandments.
It's a 2 commandment.
I'm just talking about the original 10. Yes, we can talk about New Testament commandments there. I'm just talking specifically original 10.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart. That's probably not one.
Actually, the original language is thou shalt have no other gods.
Other gods before you. There you go.
Right? So it's saying do not worship other gods.
Yeah.
Also says not to kill, do not murder.
Let's go through the 7 deadly sins. Let's start there.
Don't
That's
lie.
fine.
And don't cheat. Can anybody do it without cheating?
Thou shalt not covet.
Yep, don't covet. Don't do that.
Good, not sin, right?
Not.
We're talking
Well,
about.
that's not.
Well, those are all the
specifically.
don'ts.
Thou shalt not sin.
Let's remember all the don'ts. Don't kill, don't steal, don't covet, don't lie. I can't remember.
Honor the father and mother. But
Yeah, that's the one I got with the do that part. What's the other do one?
Should I just tell you?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. We're showing
Put us
our,
out of our
full
misery.
ignorance.
So
None of us
this is
remember
why
catechism.
I think this is why I'm making the argument that it's glaring us in the face and we can't see it. And you literally are not seeing it right now. The only positive one besides honor thy mother and father is thou shalt observe the Sabbath. Thou shalt observe the Sabbath. So why would that be so important to say, in some ways it's a don't work. And it's interesting because the liturgy, the words around it that aren't in there is that when you think about not working, it's not just don't work, but they say the commandment is to rest, but not just rest. It's to rest as if you never had to work again. It's to rest as if you never have to work again. And the interesting thing, especially my background's Jewish, and so the Jewish background of this is that the 6 days of the week are in space. And the seventh day is this honoring of time. It's where we're going offline. And in the Bible days, that meant work. My belief with what would be like today was going away from space-oriented world of the till and the farming and all that kind of work, is going away from the digital space. Is that this thing is one of the most addictive things we've ever come across. Right? So by taking space, and then I started to see it throughout the Bible. Like, what did Jesus do in Luke? Jesus often withdrew to lonely places. Why would he do that? He withdrew to lonely places. And, it's he went 40 days and 40 nights with no social media. None. Right? That's what it would be like today. Even the beginning of the Bible starts with what? Like it started with the void, creating heaven and earth, and there was a void, a space. So this, and then there's all these other prophets' examples of where they took time and space. And what I've found is that by creating space, by taking time away from screens, from work, from people, that's where the insight comes from. And that's why I can't give you the insight, but I'm giving you this technique. In fact, I've started integrating it to the point where a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk to you today came to me on a walk without my phone with my dog. Right? I literally left my phone behind so that there wasn't even that temptation to just check that or have somebody interrupt that sacred time. So sometimes it can be as sacred as 5 minutes of silence before a meeting. Sometimes it can be that, like the Sabbath, the whole day. Sometimes it can be what Google's now instituted through their productivity department, and it's in the latest book from Google, is they have something called No Tech Tuesdays. What No Tech Tuesdays is they said, don't just do anything but that's not technology oriented. And people started talking with their families and playing game nights. And this is what's really interesting about that is they noticed, because Google's very academic, they do the math on these kind of things, is they had the most productive days on Wednesdays after they did No Tech Tuesdays, right? So this is something where I say, with that statement that I made before, don't believe me. Don't believe a word I say. Don't even believe the Bible if you don't want it. Try it. Experiment with it. Maybe that's not a full day at first. Maybe it's more like building a muscle. Like, can you go for a walk for 30 minutes without your phone? And just see what happens. In fact, when I went to coaching school, this is where it gets really bizarre. Because there's also that phrase within the Bible that says, when two or more are gathered, right? So what we did was this experiment. I went to Georgetown's leadership program, and we held a frustration, a problem we wanted to solve, and we walked around in silence. And some people got an answer. Some people had some insights. But then what we did was had somebody walk with us in silence, just holding space. And every single person got an answer to their problem. Every single person. And so one of the practices I do, it's in a book. I think it's called the 4-minute something. But what they do, and I've done this with people too, is after praying, we just hold 4 minutes of silence together. And I did this with a friend of mine. He had this huge breakthrough insight. And I can't take credit for it, of course. But what did I do? Like Jason said, created the environment. Created the environment where an insight and a breakthrough can happen. Is this making sense? Thoughts, issues, comments, questions, considerations, any reactions to this so far?
Andrew, what was the concept of walk it out?
Take time, just no technology, no distractions, just time with yourself, and just keep going. oftentimes when I walk, it's like there's phone, there's music, there's something, there's Facebook, there's whatever. And the walking it out is just time with me.
It's good.
Helped me find
How
a lot more
valuable was
clarity.
that?
Very much so. Sometimes I didn't like the company, but but it got an awful lot more clearer. And so now a lot of times, you know, I'll turn stuff off. I say, okay, I'm going to listen to this while I'm walking. It's like most of the time, it's like, no, I'll let it go.
It's good.
I have a question on that. So do you have a lot of voices in your head, like a lot of conversations that are trying to happen at the same time?
Me?
Because that is my 24/7 life. More
Yeah.
conversations than I can possibly hear or decipher in my head all the time. So when I'm trying to quiet them, music is what my choice of quiet is. So the thought of walking it out with nothing is terrifying to me, because all I can imagine is every conversation screaming in my head, not shutting up.
Right. And that's how it's going to be for a little bit first. And what I've found is that it takes less time than I thought for those voices to clear out. Because I hear you, and I have intrusive thoughts. That
Yeah.
can be really, really hard to deal with, right? I find that almost like, you know how all athletes warm up? There's kind of a warm up to this in the sense of, especially those first 10, 15 minutes, I am itching for my phone. I want to listen to a podcast. I want to, I want to do some, maybe even talk to somebody or listen to music or something like that. And I found that eventually those voices start to quiet, because what I found with it is this actually brings up another idea, but one, they get tired of it. Those voices get tired. In fact, a 30-second story on that is I went to this conversation that was between Israelis and Palestinians, and everybody was arguing and arguing back and forth until this one woman who actually came from the region said, hey, there's only one way peace comes. Everybody's looking at this older woman saying like, oh my gosh, she's got the secret. What is it? And she said, when people get tired, when people are tired of whatever it is, that's when there's peace. And the whole group just got quiet. Right. And so what I found with it is those voices actually do get tired. They do get tired. Another technique with it, and this is something that I do with groups, because when I do a breakthrough process with a group, and I'll have a whiteboard and I'll write down their frustrations, because I found that if I didn't write it down, they didn't see it outside of them. They kept thinking about it and thinking about it and talking about it and talking about it. But when they saw it on a board, there was something in their mind that said, I can release it now.
That
So
I
obviously,
definitely write things down to release things.
yes,
Absolutely.
right. So that's one technique. The other is actually approaching the scary place of being silent, of being quiet. I saw Andrew first and then Kimberly.
Yeah.
I just put a link in there. There's a guy I met at a class a while back. It's Colin Brady, and he's an amazing story. But one of the things that he has and he does is a 12-hour walk. It's get out and walk some direction for 12 hours with no technology. It is it was life-changing for me. I need to go back and do it again. And it's like you overthink it at the beginning. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I just got out from my house and I walked, and there's a river close to me, and I walked that until I decided it was about time to turn around and get me back to where I needed to be. And it brought a peace and a comfort.
That's good.
But his name is Colin Brady. He's a great story.
No, it's a killer story. He's a great speaker.
Nice.
I want to add to that or comment to Cindy. Sometimes I think we don't have, because there's so much going in our head and we never are quiet long enough to let it get settled. And so by continually setting it aside or drowning it out, you're not letting those thoughts actually have their own space. And so they're competing. I'll give you a really brief example. We were on the boat this weekend, and there's a lady out at the dock that is new out there. And so we were trying to be hospitable and kind. And so we're like, hey, you should just come out on the boat with us. So she went out on the boat with us, and literally no one else on the boat said a word for 2 hours. She talked and talked and talked and talked. And it was like, oh my gosh, all her words have been stored up. She's been so lonely, right? Because she doesn't know anybody. She's new and she's kind of quiet. But man, she was none of those things with us on the boat. And it just made me think about like, oh, she just has so much to say and she's been thinking about so much, but she doesn't have that companionship or that connectivity where that 2 or 3 are gathered kind of thing. She doesn't have that. And so I bet you she slept really, really good Saturday night because I think she exhausted all the rest of us, but she exhausted herself. But I think it's because she finally had a space to put all of those thoughts. So sometimes when you let them rest in your mind, where you rest and let them go, they will, to Robert's point, they will find their own settledness and their own peacefulness because you will be able to have processed through them. It goes back to the thing that from all my coaching clients that I asked them to do initially is a 2-hour input, a 2-week input fast. No TV, no music, no radio, no podcast, don't read, just be yourself, be by yourself in all of your thoughts. And in 2 weeks, it is crazy how much clarity you get on things that you're doing and how much you're not interested in all of the noise anymore because there's enough stuff you have in your own brain, right? We have probably most all the answers we need because we ingest so much information, but we don't take time to process any of it before we go on to the next thing. So I am a big believer in a fast, a 2-week fast of that. And you will get some crazy clarity about the things you're trying to think of, but you can't get there because you don't allow enough space or time for it to really process through your own filtration system.
Wow, that's great, Kimberly. Did you create that technique or get it from somewhere?
I sure did because I kept getting so overloaded and I was like, that's it. I'm shutting everything off, everybody and everything. And literally no television, no radio, no music, no podcast, no books, nothing. Don't go anywhere. I didn't go to like classes or anything, no place for input. And I just lived my little happy life for 2 weeks. And I do it probably once every couple of years where I just go, okay, that's it. I'm back on overload. I need to shut it all down. And it's great because then you slowly, very selectively and purposefully choose what you're allowing to come back in for what you want input in. And
love that.
Crazy clarity in that.
Chris was just sharing with me, there's a chamber in Minnesota called the anechoic chamber at Orfield Laboratories. It's so eerily noiseless that visitors have used it to see how long they can stand the sound of their own body.
And most of them can't stay longer than 5 minutes.
I don't think I'd last 30 seconds.
Yeah, most people don't. It's wild.
Yeah, so I think, it's interesting. We've heard everything from like a 15-minute walk to a 12-hour to 2 weeks. And I think only we each individually can define what our edge is. And I think that there's no judgment there, but I love hearing how all these different approaches to it, because in my mind, what it does is the reason why the Sabbath would be so important is because it creates space for God. If you think about it, like, where do ideas come from? Can we really take credit for them? I personally I don't know where my thoughts come from, right? But I know I want better quality thoughts. I know I want thoughts that lead to insights and breakthroughs. And what Kimberly's saying is exactly that. If we fill up that space with other people's thoughts all the time, then it's going to be a pretty crowded, noisy place.
Yeah.
So it's a great technique there. I'd like to actually talk about breakthroughs in the where my background comes from, as well as customer service and what we do for customers. But before going there, is there anything else we want to cover on this idea of the space? Okay. And I apologize if my camera keeps moving. It's a brand new camera and it's got a robot arm that operates on its own. So if that moves, I apologize. So again, defining terms. And I know this gets so basic, but it's funny when you just start thinking like, the real tongue twister is, can you define the meaning of the word meaning? That's a real tough one. But when we say service, what's the definition? Well, how would you define service?
Putting others before yourself.
Putting others before yourself.
I think
it
it's
could be
sacrificial give. Sorry.
sacrificial. It could be sacrificial. I think it's as simple as providing value for someone. Providing value. If it's a value, then that's of service. If it's not a value, I'm not sure we can even call it service, right? It might be ego, it might be our needs or something, but is it a value to somebody else? So if that's providing value is service, what makes for outstanding service? How would you define outstanding service?
The first thing
Providing
that
more
came to my
value than
mind was
somebody else does.
Let's go a few at a time. Cindy, go ahead.
finding a need and filling it. Because not all service is a needed service.
Mm-hmm. Who was next?
I was gonna say, I think sometimes it's easier to describe when you felt really good service than maybe to describe what giving it's like. And so I think when you can create a feeling, something very simple is I know the difference when I go to like a Wendy's and a Chick-fil-A. I feel like at Chick-fil-A, I'm getting good service. I feel cared for. It's an experience, and the chicken's not that much better. And they don't even have their menu's very limited, but people would choose to go to Chick-fil-A because of the feeling they receive, and it's because of the service they get. And it's so I would say exceptional service is how is creating a feeling.
Yeah.
Good.
Todd said providing value that exceeds expectations. I think of it sometimes as meeting a need without somebody having to necessarily articulate it too, right? Like when the waiter sees that you're out of water and doesn't even ask you, just steps right in, gets you that water, right? That type of thing is an outstanding level of service, is paying attention to people's needs. So, and before they even need to articulate them. Maybe even before they even realize it's a need. Maybe you don't realize you're thirsty. And, oh my gosh, I was thirsty. I need that water. Oh, wow. Like I didn't realize the temperature wasn't right in here. Somebody took care of it. That outstanding level of service. So what would happen if we go beyond that? What would be wow level of service? It's not a wow when somebody fills my water glass. It's nice. It's really nice. I'm glad. But I don't go like, wow. What makes for wows?
I think it's enthusiasm or sincerity in it, maybe is a better word. Personalized, maybe.
Yeah, beyond the expected, I see there. So in a way, I see service as offering value. Outstanding service is paying attention to needs. I think when I think of wow, it's paying attention to wants, even beyond needs, that people didn't even realize they wanted until it happened. Right? So what's an example of that? Well, I've got some here. This is one. If I can show this. This is a picture of me taking my first private jet flight as an author. I would never make this, right? But my former girlfriend did. And I didn't even know I wanted this before I got it. Right? And
That's cool.
it's amazing how easy this is. And I'm surprised, like thinking about this for your industry. There's a great app for this, by the way, called Keepsake, where you just hit a few buttons on your phone and suddenly you get a beautiful framed picture. It's called Keepsake. It's amazing. But to me, that would be a wow if I own this home. This is like a dream home for me. It's got an amazing backyard. And even iPhone cameras are amazing now, even if you don't have a full lens camera. But if he had taken a picture of me smiling in the backyard, got me a frame of it, I would never make that for myself, right? But not only now would I have a picture of me with my dream house in a frame, but anytime anybody sees that on my counter, on my mantle, I would say, oh yeah, my agent, John, got that for me, right? Really? Now who's that guy, John? Right? These to me are examples of wow. It's like, how can you figure out things? And the framework that I use for this, I learned it at Zappos actually, and this is an equation you can kind of write down or think about, is when the perceived value is way higher than the cost. When the perceived value is way higher than the cost. This thing, I mean, this must have been less than $20, I think, right? But I love this thing, and it's a great reminder for me. It's very inexpensive, but the value is way higher, and I didn't see it coming. So what are those kind of surprises you can do? The other way to think about it is what's like this as well, is what's something that somebody would not do for themselves. Maybe it seems too indulgent. Maybe, that's what happened with this early in the Zappos times. This is, obviously an iPad, right? But what happened was, if anybody remembers when the iPad first came out, there was no actual reason you needed an iPad. Nobody needed one. I really wanted to need one. I was like, that's so cool. And so we would have these business executives come, and we wanted success stories from this program we were running. And we said, look, the best success story gets this iPad. And what happened was these executives, I mean, they had more money than God, some of them. They could easily afford it, but they couldn't justify it. They couldn't say to their husband or wife, oh, I got this. And they'd say, what do you need that thing for? Why'd you get it? Right? But then when I said, you can get one of these and you just need to submit a great testimonial and great story, they were clamoring for it. And again, they easily could have afforded it. But the perceived value of winning an iPad was way higher than the cost of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this goes back to, too, what I talked about with the Zappos story is, let's say you do this technique and get somebody a photo, and other realtor hears it and they do it too, right? What you did is you're elevating the industry. You're elevating the industry itself. I think that's what wow level really is it's so good it starts to inspire other people by what you're doing. And I've seen the best companies in the world is they don't really hide that. It's kind of public in daylight, and anybody can copy it, but you're the leader in it, essentially. So does this conversation itself, does this give anybody any insights of how you would go from service or even outstanding service that I'm sure you're doing so far as successful agents to a wow level of service? Any thoughts on that? Okay, none. Either, this again, I'm planting seeds. On your walk without it, you just go, oh my God, yes. Now I know that wow level. Yes, now I know how I can impress people. Right?
It has a really big factor to the real estate transaction is tedious. There's so many steps. There's so many checks and balances. And for most agents, they're everything from the janitor to the CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you're completely self-employed and self-processed and systemized, if you will. And so trying to make sure you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's is a wild ride anyway. Learning how to do that with, systems and processes that help you deliver consistent service, and then being able to take like what you're talking about, Robert, and go, okay, I'm delivering consistent service, which is my value, right? Like I'm capable, I understand how to navigate this transaction for people who don't do them all the time. And then to take that and level it up, add one more level of thoughtfulness, or one more level of kindness, or one more level of unexpected value that they don't even know that they need. I mean, I think some of that, you guys, we just do intuitively. And so I would say let's take another challenge and say, okay, some of these things where we're giving really excellent service. I know all of you as real estate professionals, I know how you operate with your clients. And so what would happen if you just found one little way to level up from where you are in just one small way? And I think listening to like what you're sharing, Robert, I think this is a really good way for us to like dig down in our own heads and go, okay, what could I be doing that's next level for them? What should I be doing? What's my closing gift? Maybe I need to level up my closing gift. Maybe I need to have a surprise gift before we get to closing. Maybe I need to, have monumental markers along the way when they achieve certain milestones inside the transaction, right? Yeah. So that they just feel cared for and loved for all the way through a very stressful process for most people, right? And so I think we do a lot of that because we're so exposed to it. But I think there's always there's always someone running faster, harder. There's always someone doing it better, right? And so when we can look at that and go, I want to be the person who's always doing it better, so that we are inspiring people and people can take our lead and grow. So I would just encourage you to look at your businesses and go, gosh, what's one little thing, one area in my client relationship model that I could level up?
Yeah. And it takes experimenting with it. You know, one thing, I went through the house buying process twice, and I kind of actually wished there was a big checklist that I could see how much value the agent was providing. And I kind of wanted them to say, like, oh, look, here's the checklist. Don't worry, I'm going to guide you through all this. I'm taking care of the majority of these. I just want you to know what's happening. And I kind of would have felt this relief of like, oh, there's a process to this. There's something happening. And so that can be a general one, but also what I like to do personally is really listen and ask good questions. So for example, if I hear somebody really wants to take a trip to Ireland, right now, obviously it would be too expensive for me to get them a trip to Ireland, right? But if I would see that person next and say, hey, I was just thinking about, you know, what you want to see Ireland, I got you this travel guide there, or I got you this coffee table photo book of Ireland, right? Now that doesn't cost much at all, but that's an impactful gift that they're not going to throw away. And it's going to remind them of their dream. You know, sometimes gifts are just to remind people of what's important to them that they like so much, right? So that's another way you can think about that, of delivering wow level service. There's also a great book on it called Unreasonable Hospitality that's all about a restaurant that really brilliantly does that. So I want to, there's two specific techniques I always share with companies that I want to share with you because they're just so good. Like I'll see that I see people getting the most out of it. But before I do, Kimberly, is there anything else you want to make sure that I cover, or any questions or anything like that? Okay.
No, we're at the top of the hour.
Okay.
So I'll just say that if you guys need to bounce, we understand it. If you want to stick around for the last little bit, we'll have it. If you have to go, it's on recording and we'll post it. So perfect.
Cool.
Go for it.
So yeah, this is only a couple minutes. I understand, of course, how people have to go. I respect that a lot, because one of the tips that I've seen, I learned this a lot from Tony, the CEO of Zappos, is, and again, don't believe me, just experiment, is to be early for everything. It's to be early for everything. Because here's the thing about just being on time. Everybody says, okay, be on time. If you're on time, it means you're somewhat kind of stressed to get there right on time. And you kind of have to think, okay, I got to change lanes. I got to do this. I got to get there. Okay, I arrived on time. Right? But when you're early, two things happen. One is there's less stress getting there. Second is you don't know what's going to happen when you get there. I remember I was hiring a matchmaking service, and she said, get to the bar 20 minutes early for the date. I said, why would I want to do that? She says, you might meet somebody at the bar. And I actually did that. I didn't end up meeting a girl, but I met Carlos Santana. And he left right when the date started. If I wasn't early, I would have met him there. Right? So there's some kind of magic in showing up early. And what I've seen too is when we're late, it communicates, especially if you have a team, that you're out of control, that there's something controlling you. It's the traffic, it's your dog, it's the weather, it's this. But when we're early and show up, because Tony, the CEO, I saw do for 10 years, personally or professionally, he was never, ever late. And the amount of respect that he got was just through the roof. So one is experiment. Try just for a week or two being early to everything. And what does it do to your stress levels? What does it do to synchronicities that can come up? Right? So again, don't believe me, just experiment. And the second one is how to get the real feedback. Because I'm sure you get feedback. I'm sure, one great one is NPS, Net Promoter Score. If you haven't done that, it's by far, I think, the best corporate feedback system, customer feedback system. But the one I like the most, it's an eye-to-eye conversation after you ask for feedback, but you, like computer code, you use these specific words. You say, would you please tell me what you think I don't want to hear? Would you please tell me what you think I don't want to hear? And you can even ask ChatGPT that, and it will give you some wild answers if you've been using it. So, but you could use it for clients. You can use it for friends. You can use it for anyone. And that's when it's like it might be hard to hear, but it's what they didn't want to tell you because they're worried you get upset. So if you want to get the actual truth, try that question out. You'll get answers that if you didn't create the wording and that safety, you'd never get the truth from that person.
Well, that's good. So good. Well, Robert, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. So I saw that Ken wrote it, this is gold. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. This has been really, really good. Good things to think about. Good way to have a different approach to think about some of these things too, and good reminders on some other stuff. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and also I'd love to hear back from you. Like what ideally I think you do is take this space, get back to the group, report how it went. And I believe you'll create breakthroughs that way. If I hear about it, great. If I don't, it's obviously your prerogative, but I'd love for you all to commit to that in some ways and come back to your group with Kimberly and hopefully report some real insights to action breakthroughs that came as a result of it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys, thank you for coming. I hope you have a super happy week. I guess I'll see you next Monday.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone. It's a
guys.
pleasure.